them to see and focus on. They don't see, they don't understand what we're talking about because they have never in their life experienced it themselves. And so I think you understand what I'm saying. What I'm getting at is when we start showing people the right way to do things, they can't relate to what we're saying because it's not been their experience. And so a lot of times when I'm trying to encourage people and give them the right lessons, there's a disconnect because it's not the world that they live in. And so there's a cultural divide. And I got this one example that I think illustrates it. I was at a gas station a couple weeks ago with my wife. We were getting ready to take a trip. And there was a McDonald's in the same parking lot as this Shell gas station. And there were these two guys standing over there talking, and they were dressed decent. They weren't like, just what we call street people. I mean, they were dressed clean. And as soon as I got out of my car to start pumping gas, one of them said something to the other, and he just started walking toward me. And I knew exactly what was getting ready to happen. And as he walked closer to me, he got within about 5 feet, and he said, could you give me some money? Could you spare some money for me? I mean, he went into a little more detail perhaps, and I said, no, thank you. And my wife, after I got back in the car, she said, why did you say no, thank you? And I said, well, he gave me an opportunity to give him some money, and I thanked him for that opportunity, but I chose not to participate. Now, I do give money sometimes when there's a need, but here's my question, Misaél. At what point in that person's life, this guy was about 34, 35 years old, at what point did he make a choice that he believes that it's okay to walk over to a stranger and ask them to give you money instead of having a work ethic where he goes out and he takes responsibility for himself to take care of his own needs? That's the question that I have is, where did our culture, our society, get so deep entrenched in people that are like panhandling and begging and not taking responsibility other than to try to take from someone else?
That's a powerful question, Steve, and it's a big debate, specifically in the U.S. Unfortunately, we're a country that we've grown with so much. Our economy for many years have given us the freedom to get pretty much anything we want. Obviously, there is poverty any country you go, including the U.S. However, for the most part, there is a pocket of people that we've grown entitled. And an entitlement, it's a result of something. Entitlement is a result of the word that you just mentioned. I become entitled when I don't take responsibility, okay? Because the moment I don't take responsibility, I begin to delegate or I begin to blame and do many other things. And I will talk to you a little bit about that. But, here's the thing. The reality is, Steve, is that that behavior that young man, because, you describe him as a 34, 35-year-old, so a young person, right, probably very strong, can work, right? The fact that this person learned to do that, right, they got accustomed to do that, they're comfortable doing what they did or doing what he did, is the fact that he never learned to take responsibility, or he decided not to take responsibility for himself. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that responsibility is our very first step to learning, right? And if I want to learn not to do what he did, if I want to learn to any skill or a trade or anything like that, the first thing I need to do is to take responsibility. And why am I telling you this, Steve? It's just that here's a mistake that we commonly make. And the mistake is that we think that responsibility is something that is given to us by someone in a position of authority. Think, for example, a parent or an employer, or your government, or someone that has a position of authority. And I will say, Steve, in many cases, that could be true. But here's the thing. The reality is that responsibility is something that we must be, listen to this, willing to take. Okay? It's a willful decision. I must be willing to take responsibility, because when I don't take responsibility, then what I do is that I'm giving control of my life. So let's go back to that person, right? He decided at some point in his life, I'm going to give up control of my life to whoever comes to this gas station. I'm going to give up control of my life to whoever I see at the red light by the corner. I'm going to give up control of my life to whomever is coming out of a restaurant with some food that was left over, he's carrying home as a takeout. I'm going to give control of my life to my neighbor or whoever is that is walking by me. The moment that I get used to behaving that way, and I'm giving control over you, because this young man, whether true or not, but let's say that at this point he didn't have a single dollar in his pocket, right? And he did not know where the next dollar is going to come from. He gave you the control of how much money he was going to make or how much money he was going to have in his pocket, simply because he decided, you know what, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do anything with my talent, with my skills, with my mind, with my brain, with the gift that God gave me. I'm not going to do anything with this body that I have. I'm going to give out control. And when somebody says yes, then okay. And if majority of the people say no, then also, I'm simply now, taking that. But the reality is that we must take responsibility. It starts there. Responsibility is something that is given to us. It's something that we must take. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. The reality is that in order for us, how we go to that point, how I get to that point, Steve, in order for us to arrive there, what happens is that we have to believe many lies. We begin to lie to ourselves. So let me put myself in the shoes of that person that approached at a gas station. I begin to lie to myself. You're not worthy. That's not true. You are created by God, and God doesn't create junk. So if you are a creature of God, it doesn't mean that it is impossible that you are a creation of God and you are worthless. You want me to tell you how much God paid for you? He sent his son to die for you. Right? And he opened his arms wide open on a cross. That's how much you're worth. That's how much you're worth. So telling you that you're worthless, that's a lie. Telling you that you cannot do anything, that's also a lie. So the first thing that we do is that we begin to lie to ourselves. And let me tell you, Steve, lying to yourself is a hard habit to break. It's a very difficult habit to break. When I don't, and here's the thing, you will never believe your truth until you stop believing your lies. Okay? So you cannot believe your truth and your lies at the same time. They don't match. They don't mix. It's like oil and water. You will never be able to really put it together. And you will never believe your truths until you stop believing your lies. The moment you stop believing all of those lies, then you will be able to really see your truth. So, the moment you get into that, what happens? What happens is that you develop a victim mentality, right? So I'm not sure what that person told you. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I've been approached many times. And just like you, from time to time, I've been known to give away certain things or to offer somebody food. I've told people, hey, I'm not going to give you the money cash, but if you want food, I will buy it for you. And I've done that. Right? But here's the thing, is that the first thing that we do is that we develop a victim mentality. We begin to blame other people. We begin to present ourselves as a victim. All right? And if I go back to the first thing that I told you, is that if we look at our nation, if anything, the victim mentality in this country, in the United States, has only gotten worse. We, rather than taking responsibility for our lives, many people, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find sort of like easy way for us to present ourselves as a victim in the society. That's like how do I say this? It's like there is some type of conspiracy at all times, right? Oh, the government is conspiring against me. The economy is fixed, this and all of that. And we have these alleged discrimination. Steve is always discriminating against me. Chuck is always discriminating. I create this mentality, Steve. We fall into that mentality, and a victim mindset will cause me to focus on the things that we cannot do. The moment I adopt, listen, I could be the most gifted person in the world. I could have the best talent in the world. And the moment I begin to adopt a victim mentality, that is the result of me focusing on the things that I cannot do, right? You have me here because both you and I believe that I can do a good job on explaining certain things and connecting with people and bringing you through your channel and by your help, bringing you something that that can transform a life. But I'll tell you this. My wife, she sings so beautiful. She recorded an album. She's great. If I focus on the fact that I cannot sing, you know what's going to happen? I will forget about the gift, the talent that I have. And here's the thing. In the Bible, Steve, there is a story of the prophet, right? The prophet, I think it was Elijah, if I'm not mistaken. But this woman, this widow, right, comes to the prophet, and she tells him, hey, listen, my husband was a good man, but he passed away. And when he passed away, he left us with some debt. And now the creditors are trying to take my sons, my children away. And the prophet asked him, what do you have at home? And the first thing that she said, I have nothing. But then, right after that, she said, I have nothing but a jar of oil. Right? I have nothing but a jar of oil. So in reality, what she had was so small that it was a lot easier for her to say I have nothing than to say I have a jar of oil. Right? So that's what happens many times when we don't take responsibility. You don't want to take responsibility for the little things that you have. Rather, you want to get big things before you get responsibility. Let me tell you something. You will never be given a lot of responsibility if you don't take responsibility for the little things that you have. It's just that way. It is just that way. I will never trust you with a lot of responsibility if you are irresponsible with a very small thing. So if you are irresponsible with your life, why would I trust you with my money? If you are irresponsible with your talents, why would I trust you with my time? If you are irresponsible with your own mindset, you don't even trust yourself, why would I trust you? And see, what really got me in that story, Steve, is that the prophet tells this woman, go find empty vessels and begin to pour into those empty vessels. And for you that you are listening to this, if there is one thing that I think you got to remember from what I'm telling you today, what I'm saying now, is this. You become a victim, and you not taking responsibility prevents you from pouring out what you have. And do you know what? Do you know something, Steve? When you feel poor, you don't pour. Okay? When you feel poor internally, you do not pour out the little bit or the little talent that you have. So, not accepting responsibility, it will give you an unrealistic perspective of how life works. It's simply, life doesn't work the way you would like it to. If it was that way, everything would be easy. Life is not fair. Life it's not just a fun ride, right? People that do not take responsibility, they have a poor perspective of how life is supposed to work. Okay, and I'll tell you this: if life was fair, I think that Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley and Whitney Houston, all of those big time performers, they will still be alive if life was fair, right? Because and all the impersonators will be dead. Because why do I want an impersonator? I want the real thing. So if life was fair, I will keep the real thing. When you don't take responsibility